Race drivers, today I want to share with you a stupidly easy mental performance technique that you can use whilst you're driving that can be, honestly, game-changing. Let's get to the question first though. The question that inspired this video was from Jax, and he asked this. Enzo, I'm constantly overdriving and getting too stressed when I'm behind the wheel in a race. Have you got any quick mental techniques that can help me? Yes, Jax, I can answer that. I'm going to give you the best, I'd say the most simple, straightforward mental performance technique I can, a strategy you can use when you're in the car that's going to pretty much be revolutionary for you. So, and that's a big promise, but I know it works. So just bear with me. Now, drivers, I would say that when you're competing, our biggest hurdle, apart from like actual driving skill, our biggest hurdle is the mindset that we're in when we're trying or we are performing. When we're in a race or in qualifying, it seems to be the biggest hurdle. Our mind and the way you're accessing your skill set, your emotional response to things, if you've not got a hold of that, however quick you are, it doesn't matter, because you'll trip up at every hurdle. Every time there's pressure, you'll overdrive, underdrive, you'll stress about it. It's really common, and I'd say that, you know, knowledge, skill, these things that I could actually input into a computer or a robot if they could drive, you've got that bit. Them bits are usually there. You can find out, you've got data, you've got onboard videos, all that intel is there. I mean, when you're coming towards a corner, you know the braking reference. It's kind of like a 100-meter board, or there's 3 cones, or the start of a curb on the entry. You know that reference. It's like, I must brake there or just after there, wherever it is that you've got to brake. But you know, knowledge, it's there. And you know the most important thing about the corner. It could be the exit. It could be I've got to take in lots of speed, so I've got to do an earlier and a smoother lift rather than a harsh one. You kind of know what to do. You've been shown, you've done a few sessions, you've been told by the engineer or somebody else, or you've been advised by another driver. You know, it's there. But the aspect, the human element, the mental aspect, I see that as being the problem most of the time. Knowing what to do is one thing. Doing it when it matters is a whole different subject. And that's where mental conditioning and mental performance and mental training, mental fitness training really comes in. So I'm glad you're asking this question, because it's at the core of what I say is pretty much the biggest thing when it comes, or the biggest opportunity, because most drivers out there are really not jumping on this. They're not on top of their mental performance. So if you, Jax, and anybody else who's watching this who's really interested in getting the most out of themselves, if you can double down on helping your mind perform as you want it to perform, when you want it to perform, I'd say that's the biggest aspect. And you should be training this over winter consistently and consciously on a simulator or in testing. It's like, right, how can I improve my mind today? What are my flaws when it comes to mental performance? Because this thing between your ears, above your eyes, it's your operating system. And if that's corrupted, if that's got certain belief system installed, coding, if it's got a certain mental coding that's not really aligned with you and what you want, it's not going to perform for you. This is why you need to jump on it. And I promise, if you do, this is going to be the biggest difference you can make to your driving and to your career. Your brain, your mind runs the show. So you have to know how to use it. So back to Jax's question. I would say for you, the quickest and easiest thing to do is breathing. I know it's boring. I know you've heard it to death. But if you can implement and take control of your breathing when you're in that fight or flight situation, in a race, being pressured behind, or it's qualifying time and you know now is when I want to be at my best, I've got to get on with this. Breathing is kind of the closest thing you've got to a mental reset whilst you're on the go. You may have heard me speak about having certain anchors, triggers that you can pull when you're in the car, but you have to really preload them up. You have to use them over time. You have to use visualization to get them deeper ingrained, right? So a trigger, like doing this with your fist down the straight, or a smile on your face, these take time to build and to reinforce and to make sure they're really strong and they work every time. But I'd say if you're going out now, you're going on track, the best thing is breathing. And it isn't complicated. People like to look at all these different breathing strategies, and there is science behind, box breathing. In for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, out for 4 or 8, depends on whoever's teaching this. Then you hold and you do it again. There's all these things, but essentially what you want to do is get the oxygen in and get the oxygen out and the waste out. And it's just deep breathing. Nice, slow, controlled, deep breathing, diaphragmic. So you're breathing from your stomach if possible when you're strapped in, not just the top of your chest. You're breathing in all the way down into your system, and then you're breathing out. And in doing this, not only does that send a signal to the brain of when I take deep breaths, I'm relaxed, it is actually delivering oxygen to the brain, which is good physically and mentally, as you know. The thing to remember is that deep breathing activates the parasympathetic system, which counters the fight or flight response that we get when we're in a race car. This all helps lower your heart rate, it reduces the cortisol levels, and just creates a calmer mind. And you know this already. You know that deep breaths work, but it's surprising how you don't do it when you're in the race car. As I covered there, getting the oxygen in is the most important thing. So nice deep breaths. So if you want a little bit more information on that, it literally just means take a nice deep breath in. It could be for like 3 seconds, and then a nice deep breath out. And that can be for 3 seconds as well. You don't have to time it. You just know through your whole experience of breathing every minute of the day, even when you're asleep, you're breathing right. You know how to do this. It's just take a nice deep breath in and a nice deep breath out in a controlled way. That's the only complication you need for this. Then you get strategic. It's like, when do I do it? And you'll think on the main straight because it's the start of a new lap. That's great. I would say yes, that is a great starting point. As you're coming out the last corner, if you've got a nice long-ish straight that you're on there for 6 seconds or so, you can probably do 2 deep breaths in that, but I'd do a nice long three in, 3 out, just for example. It could be more, could be less at that point when you're starting a new lap. But don't just do it there. If you know that you can start the lap well, but then you get tense throughout the lap, because a lap can be like 1 minute 30, 2 minutes sometimes. That's a long time. So you're just doing it once and then hoping that you can hold that mindset all the way through the rest of the lap might be a bit far-fetched. So I'd say take advantage of every straight. There's more than you think. You think, yeah, but I need that 6 seconds or so. That's quite a long time in a car. Yeah, but there's a lot of straights that are at least that long. I mean, let's just think about Brands Hatch. Throwing up the track map here. On the Brands Hatch circuit, it's quite a tight, twisty track and it's got a lot going on. However, the start-finish straight definitely can do it there. The back straight after turn 3, after Graham Hill Bend, you can do it there. Then after Surtees, that long straight there, you can do it now. This is 3 times already that we've done it in a lap if you really needed to. And even when the track starts to get a bit more busy, there's even time just here after Hawthorns and then again before the last corner. So there's a lot there where you could do conscious breathing. And you can get it in and you can practice that, I would say, in testing. So say if you got the Thursday there or the Friday before the race weekend, it's like, you know what? I want to have a personal goal of being mentally calm and mentally focused throughout the race, throughout qualifying. But I think I should train that now in training, in testing. Very good idea. So when you're going out and you know you're going to push, you put new tyres on, or even if it's old tyres, it doesn't matter. You say, right, I'm going to do a lap now, and I want it to be as quick as I can be. Start to do the breathing there. So you do come across the finish line, take a nice deep breath, and then this is step 2 really. You're focusing on what you want to do next. So it's a deep breath across the finish line. Just before the finish line, probably at Brands Hatch, before you go left to do turn 1. You take a deep breath and then you remind yourself, as you're breathing out, you remind yourself of what you want to do in that next corner. So if it was a hairpin, say, you got a long straight towards a hairpin, you take a nice deep breath, you say, right, look for the board, think about the exit. And that's what you're thinking in your head as you approach. So not only have you calmed the mind, you've given it a suggestion, a command of what you want it to do next in the next few seconds. So that's why it's quite nice to do it at every straight, because then you can say it about the next corner. And then once you do that for a few laps, you find yourself in such a calm state that you're in control. You feel like you feel the car more. You're settled. Instead of running, chasing, pushing and being all stressy in your head, you actually just feel like you're kind of behind the car a little bit more, and you're watching and you're just directing the car instead of being so in it and emotional. And that's what breathing with a command can do. And then there's a third stage. Now, if you've heard of affirmation breathing, this is what people do if they're going on stage, or if they want confidence, they want to feel, they want to access the emotion of confidence. You often hear about people and see them, I've trained this before with people and I've been trained the same way, is you take a nice deep breath in, but on the exhale, you actually say something like, I'm confident. Then you breathe in again, and as you exhale, you say something like, I'm strong. And you keep these affirmations, like these affirmations that you say to yourself to give yourself a bit of a boost motivationally or emotionally. It's doing that on the exhale. And I'm saying to do that for yourself, but more with the command, your keyword, your key phrase of the corner that's coming up. So if you are exhaling and you see this corner not too far away, you give the command of what you want to do at that corner, just to remind the brain of the most important aspect of what's coming up. Because again, when we're emotional, when we're not breathing, we're tense, our heart rate's up, you feel like your body temperature's going through the roof. That's all self-created, by the way, and you can feel it on the sim when you're sweating. It's like, I'm trying too hard here. So practice this on the sim, by the way. But if you do, calm it down by giving it the breath and giving it the command of what's the most important thing about this corner, the philosophy of the corner, you're remembering the knowledge that you've got, the logic side of how to drive quickly. And you do that for each section, and you train it in testing. By the time you come to qualifying, you just do it again and again in the race, and you'll find out your way of doing it, because you might have a funky way of doing it, because I can teach you all the mental training techniques or performance techniques in the world, but you've got to fit it to you, because we all have our quirky ways of communicating to our mind, and different senses as well that we use, that you prioritize and I might not prioritize. So we've all got hierarchy of the way of communicating to our brain. So you might have your own little way of doing this, but as a template, nice deep breaths on the straight, just one in and one out. And as you're out, you give it a command of what you want that brain to do. Give it a go, everybody, and let me know how you found it and if you made it better.